Walt Bump.
They're calling it the Walt Bump and Need. Welcome back to Why We Like This, the podcast that treats Florida like the active crime scene it is. I am your co-host, David Quinones, and I am joined by my co-host, Tomas Kennedy. What's up, Tomas?
You know, another day, another heat wave, but surviving.
Do you see that it was 100 yesterday? It hit for 100 only for the second time ever in Miami.
I mean, I didn't see it. I felt it.
Yeah, fucking sucks, dude. It really fucking sucks. It's not cute. It's not funny. I don't like this shit.
It's horrible. But welcome to every day for the rest of your life, or every summer at least.
The coolest summer, at least for the rest of your life. Yeah.
Yes.
If Tomas is here, that can only mean that we.
Who the fuck is Thomas?
That's like when people call me Dave, and I'm like, yeah, you don't know me. I was actually, I don't want to get off-roaded. I was getting an ultrasound done today, and it was in a very Hispanic part of town, and it's always funny when I shift from David into David territory. It's very funny. I have to get used to answering to David. But anyway, if Tomas is here, that can only mean that we are joined by our other co-host. He just made 1 million more Natalie Harps, but now he's got to figure out what to do with them. And, you know, that isn't human trafficking. It's Gerald Doherty. Hey, Gerald.
You can't even have friends anymore. The left won't even let you hang out with your friends.
Like having late night sleepovers and playing PlayStation and just kicking it, you know?
This is why he fired Vivek for his screed against white childhood, is you can't even just hang out at night with your friends anymore.
I don't know if this has gotten floated already, the idea of her, like, maybe I'm sure somebody's probably already written this on like Twitter somewhere, but like the idea of like reverse swapping the roles of the movie Obsession. And it'd be like, where like they were just buddies that hung out all the time, but like she couldn't tell him her feelings, and until, you know, the One Wish Willow, flipped the script on them. I don't know. There's something there. Screenwriters out there get to work on it. Yeah,
it's like if Punch Drunk Love was in the White House and the genders were reversed and the age was really, really extreme.
And diapers were involved. So, gentlemen, we have much bigger news to talk about today than what if the girl from Obsession was blonde instead of brunette. Today is post-primary day, and there's no shortage of news for us to discuss, good, bad, and awful, and everything in between. We're going to get right into it. But I had a couple things I just wanted to throw out there because I would feel like our listeners might think we're derelict if we don't mention these couple of very specific things. Number one, Nancy Mace and her tattoos. I only bring it up because like South Carolina has been on my brain lately because a lot of people I know either are like, it's that redux of like the 2021, 2022 era where everybody was moving to North Carolina, but now like they're moving to South Carolina. I don't know. Maybe this is just anecdotal to me, but like South Carolina's been on my mind. Nancy Mace, she's been on my mind with those tattoos.
I will say as a tatted up person, I mean, I have like 11 medium-sized tattoos. Getting 9 tattoos in your 50s in the space of 1 month is pure mental illness.
Right. Like when I meet Tomas and we haven't seen each other for like a few weeks or whatever, usually he's got some fresh ink to show me. And it's endearing and cute and cool because he's like 30 and he's that guy who has that. And it's like,
and I've gotten them over the course of
time. Right.
15 or so years, not 9 months.
To just like
9 weeks. Sorry, not.
To just like go in to the tattoo parlor and just point at a bunch of stuff on the wall and be like, yeah, give me a bunch of those. And like, yeah, I don't know, happy, like, you know, horny Pikachu, crying Rose, like it's just like the most generic shit. I don't know. It's it's a lot. The other thing, okay, so we'll skip right past Nancy Mace. I don't know, Joe, do you have thoughts on Nancy? I mean,
I saw the picture. I saw the pictures. I have a further bone to pick with Anthony Weiner after seeing this because I feel the lane she's in now, the angles at which she's taking these pictures. If a man did this, I think that the comparisons to Anthony Weiner would be all too easy. And so I kind of blame him that you're not allowed to have a manic breakdown without being compared to him. He closed a lane that we didn't even know was open. And so I'm kind of upset with him, for closing it for the rest of us. So she's blazing a trail. Where to? Probably Arkham Asylum, I suppose. So best of luck to her. Who can say?
She's gonna be the first person who's legally single to go to divorce court somehow. Yep. The other thing I wanted to check in really quickly is I wanted to check in on our friends over at Florida Politics, just because of like we talk a lot about the enshittification of everything and how like you get less for more these days, and how you I mentioned this in our chat, so this isn't news to the fellas, but like I say that to bring you to this Florida Politics article from about 4 days ago, where it was written by the publisher and owner, Peter Schorsch. Still not sure how to pronounce it. Scorch, like Scott Storch, I guess. And the headline of the article is Ontario tore out its school zone speed cameras. Florida should look hard at what happened next. And if you've listened to anything that I'm not going to read the article. It's stupid. If you listened to us in the past, the way that Florida politics operates. It's it is a pay for play scheme. If you can usually figure out,
not kind of at all. It's absolutely a pay for play.
It is, yeah. You can kind of figure out who their clients are by back reading and like reverse engineering what usually Peter is writing about, or what space or prominence they give to certain like editorials, where it'll be like Gerald Doherty Incorporated is really great and people need to stop talking so mean about Gerald Doherty Incorporated because whatever, and it's like, I wonder who's behind this article. Okay, fine, we know that that's how it works, we know that that's how things are over there at Florida Politics, but I want to direct you to the tagline at the end of this article. Editorial note: this story was drafted with assistance from AI. Editorial judgment, sourcing, and final review were performed by Peter Scorch and the Florida Politics editorial team. And I would be so pissed if I dropped whatever it costs, whatever the going rate is for a Peter Scorch article, and I didn't even get I didn't even get the full Scorch. I got the Scorch Bot. I got the damn Scorch Bot.
How about it?
God damn.
You got Diet Scorch.
Yeah,
that's some real diminishing returns, man. We're not even getting it. And you know what's funny is the only reason that I even scrolled down to I don't know, I could probably count on one hand how many times in the last year I've scrolled to the I've read all the way to the bottom of a Florida Politics article, because usually like all you need is the headline. But I did start reading the first couple paragraphs, and it was immediately obvious that it was AI. It was just like, I was like, is this an AI thing? Because I've read Peter Scorch articles before. Peter Squish articles before, and I was like, oh, this sounds different, and sure enough, it was fucking AI.
It's all shit, like it's all sentence structures, like it's not what happens when you remove the cameras.
Yeah,
it's what happens when the cameras are removed and you have to drive in those. Do you know what I mean? It's like that juxtaposition that's so AI coded. It's just so obvious and poorly written.
Yeah, that's called a negative parallelism.
Yes.
It's a negative parallelism, and it's rife with it's LinkedIn language. For if you ever sadly, I'm sorry if you spend any time of your life and your day on LinkedIn, but all the shit that people write on LinkedIn has that, because it's all AI. Everybody on LinkedIn is using AI like shamelessly. So great. Those were my two little articles that I wanted to go, my two little news pieces I wanted to get to at the top. But let's talk about our main topic. You heard us maybe chattering before the intro music ended to the episode, talking about the Walt bump. Our buddy Angie Nixon. How about it, fellas?
How about it?
The biggest and the best result from yesterday's primary. State Representative Angie Nixon has won the Democratic nomination for the U.S. Senate race, where she will face incumbent appointee Ashley Moody, who, of course, replaced Secretary of State Marco Rubio. It's very funny to say Secretary of State Marco Rubio still. Many would call this an upset win. I mean, I think that's a fair thing to say when you are... Oh, we lost Gerald for a second. I'm sure he'll be right back. When you're outspent 16-1. I did not know that the spread was that big between Angie and our buddy Vindman, Alex Vindman, who we got to meet in person recently.
When we asked him to debate Angie, and he regurgitated, unrecorded, the question, and he just regurgitated some
talking points.
intense word salad towards
I
us.
was really impressed at how deftly he handed us off to his legislative aid, though, or his staff aide. Yeah, he should be in public office. I like he does belong there based on my experience with him.
He definitely has like congressional like ghoul energy.
Yes. So Tomas, I couldn't help but think, and I'll recapitulate this after Gerald rejoins. I wanted to get your thoughts on like what your bigger takeaway was. Obviously, I would never want to take away from this great win from Angie. I think what she did is incredible, and it's also indicative of two things: like a really hardworking campaign, a boots on the ground type of campaign, and like number two, people that are ready for this, for like what she's selling, as opposed to what the Vindman sort of corporate Democrat establishment backed faction are selling. But I can't help but notice, and again, I don't want to take away from her victory. I can't help but think about like the most functional and most powerful state Democratic party or state political parties that I've ever known, that I've been a part of, or that I've not been a part of, but that I've like lived within the confines of. Right, like I think about like Harry Reid's Nevada Democratic Party when I lived in Las Vegas for 8 years. And I think about like they never would have let something like this happen.
They never would have let something like this happen.
Never would have let something like this happen. And there was no hiding hiding anything in this. They like the Florida Democrats were clearly behind Alex Vindman. They made no bones about it. And this I like, props to Angie. She kicked ass. But how weak is this state party, man? That they got this snaked out from under them.
I mean, pathetic. And Nikki Fried had a terrible night. She's the one that personally recruited that guy Earl Ford to run against Tadeo. She was going all in on Vindman and the state apparatus, to try to stave off Angie. They were, of course, handicapping Oliver Larkin against Moskowitz at every turn. Trying to picking and choosing winners, and not doing a good job at it. I'll tell you a story about Angie though. Like, we did a recent press conference outside city of Miami, where we, it was covered in the Herald. We were calling on the end of the city's 287G contract, the police ICE collaboration agreement, and Angie called Mayor Eileen Higgins out for not fulfilling her campaign promise to end that collaboration. She was on her way from Jacksonville that morning, driving herself on her car at the crack of dawn, and the campaign called us. She called us, and she was and she got a flat tire in the middle of her traveling to the press. So she was like, "I'm going to be 15 minutes late, but I'll be there," which is fine. We had all the media there. The media was cool, whatever. They went to pick her up while they changed the tire. She got in another car, kept going, because she was on a rental. Like, someone's picked her up with her car. So she just drove the rest of the way, made it, 15 minutes late. We did the press conference. It was all over the place: Miami Herald, NBC, Univision, Telemundo, CBS, etc. And then she went to do a bunch of other campaign events in Miami that day that she had lined up. My point is, like, that's hard work, and that's what she did for months and months and months, just like straight up hustling. I think she spent like $60,000 on like placed ads, right? I mean, it was just all pure like hustle, and community networks and relationships that she had built, and that's her strength as a candidate. But then there's also the lackluster and just dog shit, quite frankly, campaign that Vindman ran.
Yeah.
Where, obviously the insulting, racist, sexist comments that his wife did about Angie's clothes and shoes, the fact that the guy was not, in the community, he didn't have a canvassing operation really. He wasn't up on TV, oddly. He refused to debate her. Hired the same dog shit consultants that run Florida campaigns and lose for the last 2 decades or so. So it really is a satisfying loss, because this guy just absolutely deserved to lose. And he also just didn't have a message, right? I mean, he was part of these like resistance grifters that
Right.
had been banking on, opposition to Trump and whatever the merits are of his like whistleblowing 10 years ago. It's like, dude, you're running for U.S. Senate now. What are you running on? What's your ideology? What are your policy positions? What are you going to deliver for people? What are you running to do, right? Like, you can't just be running because you whistleblew some shit 10 years ago. Clearly, maybe you think you can, but it certainly wasn't up to par the standard of Florida voters. And it's illustrative of another campaign that lost miserably yesterday, which was Stephanie Murphy
Mhm.
running for Orange County mayor. As I remember, Stephanie Murphy is one of the quote unquote blue dog
The Blue
Democrats,
Dogs, yeah.
conservative Democrats that used to be in the Problem Solver Caucus. She's the person that handicapped and blocked the Build Back Better bill when Biden first got elected, and he was actually trying to do progressive stuff. She like held it up because she thought it was too progressive, and she was a major thorn on the side of the administration again, and anything progressive that they might want to do. And they just, again, but she also had this sort of like reflexive vapid opposition to Trump, and it's just not good enough anymore. It's just not good anymore. People are asking. I'm not saying that every voter is like a socialist and they want like a socialist, like government in the US.
Right.
A lot of them do, per the polls. A lot of Democratic voters do, but I think generally all Democratic voters, they want substance now, right? And
Yeah.
Vindman was one of the most substance lacking candidates I've ever seen in my life. And the last thing I'll say, and I'll finish this rant now, is that everybody that worked in that campaign, and I'm sorry if you're listening to this and you're working in the campaign and you get mad, like, you should be embarrassed, honestly. And you should not work in Democratic politics for a long time. Especially if you were like in a decision making, and strategy setting position. Like, you should not work in Democratic politics for the foreseeable future, if not permanently, because that was a really embarrassing campaign. It was shameful.
We had mentioned that she was outspent. Angie was outspent 16-1 in this
16-1, and
16-1 in this
and
primary.
Vindman lost by 10 points.
Yeah, and it was not close. It ended up being quite a widespread.
We had, I'm not going to say that I was like 100% sure that Angie was going to win, because it was an underdog campaign. But even per the last podcast that we did and conversations and stuff, I had a feeling that she was, and we all had a feeling that she was going to sneak up on him. Because again, the Vindman campaign was so non-existent.
Well, when I met him, and I was like, okay, like, I know that you can be kind of a paper candidate, or you can be a media candidate, or you could be a press the flesh candidate. You could be and I was like, but all of those kind of do involve, like, if people don't already know who you are, like in the way that kind of around Miami, everybody kind of sees Elliot Rodriguez, who we'll get to, and you kind of know who Elliot Rodriguez is. He's been on your TV for a really long time. That's not the case with Alex Vindman. And like, if I'm like, okay, well, who is this guy that wants to be my senator? It's not impressive. So like it's just very milquetoast, very like, he's like the milk of magnesia candidate. It's very like, okay.
And it's illustrative of the narcissism, right? It's like, you think because you were on MSNBC and a narrow section of voters and very politically plugged in people know who you are, that everybody's familiar with the Vindman name. And like, quite frankly, the vast majority of people out there have no fucking idea who you are, right? And just like the entitlement that color that campaign, yeah, the results speak for themselves, right?
So now Angie moves on to the next to the general election. Again, please don't think I'm raining on anyone's parade. I'm not, but I will notice that, like, we talk about the way that, there's only so many years you can talk about not demographics, but like voter registration changes until there's a huge change in voter registration. And Ashley Moody got 1.32 million net votes during her primary win yesterday against, like, not a very strong field and not a serious field. And that was more votes than Angie and Vindman combined. So, like, she has her work cut out for her in the general. That is a big spread. Assuming that everybody coalesces and independents like me who did not vote will break her way, which I will. Will all the other ones like me do it? I don't know. So I hope so, and I can speak for myself. But an interesting thing I found that was kind of adjacent to Angie's win, and maybe we can get Gerald to weigh in on this since it's a little wider scope. This is a tweet from a guy named Wally Nowinski, who is goes by @Nowuski on Twitter and on X, the everything app. He was quote tweeting a Tommy Vitor from the Pod Save America podcast tweet where he wrote, earlier this morning, Kalshi had Angie Nixon with us, and this was yesterday, with as low as a 5% chance of winning. Not sure the wisdom of the crowds is quite shining through on these sites yet. And it shows one of those big dramatic sort of like swooping X's or, parallel changes where right up until like 5 minutes before they called the race, Alex Vindman was a 99% or a 95% chance to win. And then literally like the minute before they called the race. And so this Wally Nowuski guy says, I think in a very tongue-in-cheek fashion, he says the funny take here would be to assert the reason prediction markets keep missing these sleeper upsets is because the insider trading prohibitions are too effective, and thus they are missing any signal from people with real firsthand knowledge. I want to keep some of our powder dry for this, Tomas, because we've been talking about doing a prediction market episode soon. And
Yes.
but I it strikes me that like this almost seems like this kind of a race seems like one of the few incorruptible prediction market bets, because like who would be that person that has insider information? Nobody's would have insider information about this. Like if you were on Team Nixon and you knew that you saw some polling data that showed you doing well, you put it out there. If you were,
I'll tell you who. Dominion voting machines.
Back to it. We'll just immediately get demonetized
Executives
now.
at Dominion.
Co-defendants with Mike Lindell.
Yes.
Why are we like this podcast?
Yes.
So that just stuck out to me. So stay tuned, Walt listeners, because we are going to do that prediction market episode soon, because that is specifically an issue here.
I mean, it's clearly idiotic, right? That CNN uses prediction markets to.
It's disgusting.
Forecast.
It's ridiculous.
It's just a cash grab, right? It's just a cash grab, and it's stupid. It's the folly of the crowds, right?
That shit touches any editorial product is insane. That like willfully, like that somebody's like, oh yeah, and then we'll go to the segment where I talk about where and then we'll go to Steve Kornacki with the fucking poly markets. That's insane. That's crazy. I'm trying to think of how you would explain that. Not to like George Washington. How would you explain that to like my dad if he was alive and be like, oh dad, yeah, now the way that democracy works is that we've got all this fucking. First of all, dad, Y2K came and nothing bad happened. It was fine. Don't worry. And then trying to explain the entire concept of the internet. It's ridiculous. We had a governor's race, a pair of governor's races here too. Representative Byron Donalds wiped the floor with the field, 47.8%, defeating second place Jay Collins.
Our boy James Fishback didn't make it.
I was going to mention that on the Democratic side, David Jolly equally. I don't think he had much of a distinguished field. Going against him, he crushed it 61%, as most people have said. His field isn't distinguished, but also David Jolly is not very distinguished, as in like I can't distinguish him from a standard Republican, because in my mind that's what he is. Like, so
I will say I think he ran. I don't share his politics. Not very excited about his candidacy at all. I would say he ran a much better campaign than Vindman.
Okay.
Like, I think a lot better. I mean,
well,
he was
hopefully that translates over to
And for example, I think he took some more populist positions. Like he called for a statewide moratorium on data center construction.
Yeah, good.
Which honestly is there's still so many Florida Democrats that are like
material thing. Yeah,
we need guardrails, we need regulations. I'm like, motherfucker, just say no. We're not building them here for the foreseeable future. And Jolly actually came out and was like, moratorium, we're not building them. I think he's trying to outflank Donalds. He's responding to like the political context, but I think he ran a much better campaign than Vindman, and it shows. It's on the results.
Yeah, he was one of Donald's primary opponents, the aforementioned James Fishback, who we're going to check in on right now, did try to make some hay on that issue. It's an easy issue as a voter to just judge candidates on, because if the statement, if you hear them talking about data centers and any of their response like hinges on some talking point that's like, we have to be ready for AI. We need to be a part of this future. We have to have automatically is yeah. And don't let them double speak and talk about, like Tomas said, guardrails and regulate it properly. None of that shit, man. Because like there's a reason. But you should be. By the way, the data center thing, you should be fucking offended if they're coming to your neighborhood to your town or your neighborhood with that. Because you know what that means? That means they think you're a fucking moron. They think you're trash, stupid, white trash, poor scumbag idiot. That's what they think of you if they're bringing a fucking or that you're majority minority community and they don't give a fuck what you think. So you should be deeply offended. You should be running these people out of your towns with fucking pitchforks and lit bales of hay. You should be hanging them in the town square metaphorically. You should be. I don't want us to get
allegedly
and metaphorically. So James Fishback, speaking of,
honestly, fucking no. Like you should employ vandalism, and non-person targeted violence against AI technology and infrastructure.
Absolutely.
That shit is evil and it's destroying our society. I'll just say it. I don't care.
Absolutely, I couldn't agree.
This is like just about the future of human character and identity. Honestly.
I couldn't allegedly agree more.
Yeah, allegedly.
So James Fishback, who we had been assured was going to shock the world yesterday, didn't exactly shock the world. He received 10.5% of the Republican primary votes. I saw some cope floating around from his supporters. This was very funny. I saw a kid was, and I say kid, it was literally a kid, was digging into precinct level data, and he found some like small precincts where like around colleges, which is very dispiriting, that James Fishback won like 89% of the votes in the Florida State precinct.
Yeah,
Florida State University.
But did you see the actual turn?
Yeah, the raw numbers.
Did you see the actual turnout?
It was like 40-10 or something like that. Total raw votes. It was like.
Yeah, it'll be like 20 people voted at each precinct, like in the college.
Yeah. And there was a bunch of those. There was like a South Florida one, and then like another one in the Tampa area. And I mean, that kind of makes sense. That again, we're talking micro precincts. We're talking micro, tiny. Does not matter. It is still. Yeah. I come away from this primary season. My big like, not learning, but like my big like I guess like red button issue would be. I'm mostly concerned about the Fishback of it all. I know he only got 10% of the vote. That's really concerning. The fact that he was just walking around with like hundreds of like white incels behind him everywhere he went, all through the state, that was really disturbing. Joe, we were talking about the 10.5% vote that James Fishback got, and as well as the few tiny precincts that he dominated surrounding several universities. Do you have any thoughts on that?
Yeah, I mean, to me, on the one hand, he had a near fourth place finish. I mean, he for the amount of exposure he got to where he actually placed, a lot of his, I think, attention was pretty unearned. I mean, you had people in like the New York Times opinion section giving him entire like profiles. Like he got. For what he actually
more ink than anyone.
For what he actually earned to what he actually got, I mean, I think it shows, that whole like, I guess we don't call it Twitter anymore, but like X is not real life type of stuff. On the other hand, to see that his overperformance was with college educated kids, I think it shows that in 10 years, the people who accept like this, whatever you want to call this, are just going to die out. Like your Hassans versus your Nick Fuenteses are going to like dictate who is going to be on congressional staffs. Like that's the listenership. That's your, those are the two poles. This whole, for me, it was like a bellwether, like to see that it was like it wasn't just, I saw like FSU was one, it was every college camp, any college town Fishback dominated in, which should also tell you that it's also, it suffers from the same thing that Bernie suffered from, in his races, which is predominantly like overeducated people are the ones consuming this politics. Now that can change. And Angie Nixon performed extremely well with people who did not go to college, which is kind of like bucking the trend of like progressive candidates doing very well among like the overeducated. Angie did very well among people who did not go to college. So I think that they are kind of like that movement, like what we can just call like a nascent fascist movement, I would say is like on a 10-year delay. And I think a lot of that is just having a figure like Trump to just put all your political energies into. As he's on his way out, they're going to have to find new figures that can carry that kind of water. I don't think it's going to be him, but like figures in that orbit are going to slowly start replacing, you know, your Marco Rubios, your your John Thunes, all the rest. Like there is going to be a process, and it's probably going to take a decade. But I think it's like the beginning of something for sure.
So then how does like the still very powerful, if brittle and crusty and old, like neocon faction of the party like continue any kind of appeal to that? Because like I saw so many tweets, which I mean I know we get this every time there's a contentious primary, whether it's Bernie, Hillary, whatever. It's always like, well, I'm not voting for quote unquote eventual winner. I saw a lot of I'm not voting for Byron Donalds from the Fishback faction. So like I wonder how that resolves in this 10-year frame that you're talking about. Like, do they just do these kids fall in line and just be like, you know, when I was young, I used to say I would never vote for Byron Donalds. Now I miss the man, or some shit like that.
No, I think there will be like hangers on. Like James Carville is still, you know, trying to dictate terms, however impotently, within the Democratic Party. There will be people who grew up in the Cold War, who have a Cold War mindset, and those are frankly the people who have all the relationships that matter right now in party politics, within both the Democratic and Republican Party. So I'm not saying they're going to vanish, but I'm saying they will probably not replace the next generation with smaller versions of themselves, which is, you could argue that's what the Reagan presidency did, like Reagan to Bush. Like it's just people with basically the same ideology, just 20 years younger. I'm saying that's not going to happen. You're not going like the fact that like Nikki Haley's son is a groyper. Like he's not a Nikki Haley person. Like her own son is not like a devotee of her ideology. That's the kind of like interruption I'm talking about. They're not going to be able to reproduce their own ideology in the next generation.
Well, is he going to be like the Fishback of South Carolina?
Hell yeah.
Maybe they'll run for president.
No, you know who's going to be that? You know what?
Like that's the only thing that Fishback can do now. Like, right? Like, I mean, if I was him and I'm a grifter and like an attention starved, like,
well, I want to use that.
He should declare for president right now.
Yeah, I mean, I think the more likely, I mean, I wouldn't cross off a star-crossed. I wouldn't discount a star-crossed, like, you know, run for president like that. But I think more likely he's going to end up being just like a media figure, and that brings me to our next race, which was probably the most disappointing one. If the Fishback getting crushed race felt good, this one probably feels the worst, because in Congressional District 25, running against probably the worst Democrat in the House, conservative DeSantis flunky Jared Moskowitz, the vastly superior candidate, Oliver Larkin, lost pretty badly. And while it's not a huge surprise, obviously Moskowitz is kind of like, as we know, we've talked about him before, he's like a real swamp creature of the establishment. It's still pretty disheartening. And also, like, when you get down to it, I would never say this before Oliver lost, because I wouldn't want to put it out there, but like his constituency is not in line with his messaging. Like it's just not. It's like trying to sell, you know, ketchup popsicles to Eskimos. It's a tough sell. This was presaged, I think, though, by this. But Tomas, I thought maybe you could give us your insight into this, because all I know is from what I read in articles. But like everything that happened with the progressive rally that was like undercut by sort of Moskowitz aligned interests who found common ground with Laura Loomer. We haven't discussed that on the show yet. Last week, I'm sure a lot of people have seen the article, the venue, which is a famously like pro LGBTQ owned a gay owned club venue here in South Florida. I think over in Weston, right? Isn't it in Weston? It says Fort Lauderdale, but I think it's in Weston. They pulled out at the last second when they found out that Rashida Tlaib was going to be a part of, this rally that was planned and booked, weeks ahead of time. And fortunately, the folks the organizers were able to find an alternative venue, and they held it and got a lot more press, got a lot more attention, got a lot more ink than they would have. So thanks a lot. But Tomas, what was going on? What do you know about what was going on behind the scenes with all that shit? I want to talk about Oliver losing sadly, and also just kind of all the work that had to get put in to these people making sure that he lost.
I don't know much except from what's been reported and from what I've heard, but apparently the venue specifically objected to Rashida Tlaib being there.
Yeah.
And they were getting pressure from Gottlieb, who's this Democratic extreme Zionist state rep, and Laura Loomer and other people, and they canceled the venue, and there was a number of different venue changes. I mean, I will say, beyond that, I just want to say I thought Oliver Larkin was a really good candidate, impressively good, super polished, super sharp, super on message.
Great on media.
Lost, and the margin was big. I think it was actually smaller than it could have been considering the district. I thought it was a impressively, and I say this objectively, not because I share many of the politics of the campaign and the candidate. I thought it was just a really sharp, well-run campaign. And it got a lot of momentum towards the end.
A lot of momentum. He's got a nationally known name now that he didn't have 3 months ago. I mean, he went on Fox News and cooked some random anchor that they have with the pedophile Trump comments. He went on Hannity and didn't fall for any of the annoying Hannity trying to hold you down and get you to we should try to have him on at some point, because and then of course famously just last week he had the whole Glenna Milberg meltdown. Glenna Milberg down here in South Florida is kind of an institution, but you can imagine she's a news anchor down here, but you can imagine that the type of bedfellows you have to be a news anchor of 40 years in South Florida, what your politics and personal beliefs probably are. And, they obviously leaked into a segment where she was interviewing Oliver, and she stepped outside of the realm of acceptable, journalistic distance and decided to do some genocide denial. Casually. So that was
when she decided that her qualifications as a local news anchor supersede that of the United Nations, human rights organizations, some including in Israel, by the way, and multiple Holocaust and genocide scholars that have all determined that what's happening in Gaza, perpetrated by the Israeli armed forces, is indeed genocidal action. But
dozens of NGOs, there's lists everywhere. You can find everywhere. She
has more qualifications than genocide scholars in the UN to make that determination.
By the way, this got kind of lost in the embroglio with that. But right after that, the very next follow-up question, Oliver's response was speaking more directly to, I think he did a really good job pivoting away from the labeling of genocide and the definition of the competing organizations or whatever. And he just was talking about the violence wrought by the IDF. And that to me, where Glenna Milberg denied that was just as, if not more egregious, especially considering today, the Israel itself, the Israeli government came out and admitted that that they're opening an inquiry, an investigation into one of the more brutal instances of an Israeli soldier shooting a child. And she denied it 5 days ago. Again, Tomas, from your what you said, from her omnipotent and omniscient perch of South Florida anchor. So Oliver, know that you have fans over here at the Why We Like This podcast, and better luck next time. I was going to say I had a note written here where I said, sadly, his career might end up being more of a media one too, which is why I was thinking of Fishback, obviously two very different types of media figures. But like, I just can't, and I don't mean that to sound like a dismissive thing. I just found him, like you, Tomas, to be really polished and really good at dealing with that, a pressure cooker that I don't think a lot of well-meaning progressive candidates are usually ready for, to get on TV and to acquit themselves and sound good doing it, and sound like, where the dumbasses on TikTok who see the clip will reply, "Damn, he cooked you, bro." Like, just like, because like to be able to nail it like that is a part art, part science, and he's got it down. So good for him.
Agreed.
So next topic I was gonna have us talk about a little bit was the Trump-tinged judicial upset here in Miami-Dade, where the judge, Mabel Ruiz, who temporarily halted Miami-Dade College's transfer of land for Trump's presidential library, lost to a conservative challenger who used that ruling, or that attempt, I should say, at a ruling, as a weapon. And this resulted in Destiny Alvarez, our new incoming judge, circuit judge. Destiny Alvarez won that election 50.5 to 49.5 against Mabel Ruiz. And I think that one day we should do an episode about the MAGA judicial capture in Florida over the last 10 years, because I think that apart from the supermajority, that's probably like the most impressive and way more long lasting and more permanent accomplishment that MAGA has had here in Florida, in the last 10 years. But wanted to open it up to you, T, see if you had any inside information that you wanted to talk about, or any impressions that you had from that race. That one was one. It felt like there was a lot of out-of-home media spend. I saw those signs everywhere between those two candidates. Like, it felt like they were spending a lot on signage and on like billboards and shit.
No, I mean, it goes to show, the power of spending in just sort of like sleepy, kind of like low turnout, low information races, especially judicial races, right? And obviously, like, they weaponized that against the judge who was just merely being fair and ruling from the bench the way that a judge is supposed to. And obviously, like, Kevin Cooper, the hack, who's the Florida GOP chair here in Miami-Dade, was saying, like, these judges, I'm not going to opine, because the judge, from the party perspective, because these races are supposed to be nonpartisan. So I'm going to speak from my own personal capacity. I'm like, fuck off, dude. Like, get the fuck out of here. Like, you guys dumped millions of dollars into this race to partisanize it. And, so many of these judicial positions have been tinged with partisanship now from both sides. But I think the Republicans are far more egregious in that trend. So yeah, I mean, it's just part of just like the enshittification, the politicizing of our judicial system.
Of the judiciary, yeah. A few other South Florida results that I just wanted to kind of lightning round through. Wasserman Schultz beat a field that included a friend of mine, at least, and of the show, Elijah Manley, who lost to her. She earned 45% of the vote. He got about 14. And it's also hard to ignore the fact that this new district that is now, I think, only one of two remaining majority black districts in Florida. It's hard to ignore the fact that 4 black candidates probably split the vote. Uncle Luke, famously, of Two Life Crew fame, got 8%. Dale Holness, who had been, I think, mayor of Broward County, right? Yeah. 23%, and the scandal-ridden Phyllis McCormick. I always fuck up saying her name. I can't say. Apologies. You can put me on the payroll and charge the government for it if you want. How about that? She got 9%. Again, 4 candidates. Wasserman Schultz is just that like fucking disease that Florida can't get rid of. It's like that fucking head cold that you have for 18, 20 years. Oliver Gilbert edged out Chev Jones in Congressional District 24. In my home district, the news guy, Elliot Rodriguez, defeated Robin Peguero, which I'm sure Maria Elvira Salazar is jumping up and down over, because I don't think Elliot Rodriguez has got the kind of like energy or like everything about him just seems like a dog showing its belly in this campaign. It doesn't seem like he really wants any kind of smoke, and I feel like she's going to run roughshod over him.
I still think he's a better candidate than, like, I found Robin, and I don't want to, I hate to shit on someone who just lost, but like, I found his campaign to be really lacking substance. He was also one of these like candidates that sort of like ran on like, oh, it was a January 6th impeachment stuff or whatever, and it's like, at least Elliot, when they asked him about Medicare for all, I'm not sure if Robin was pro Medicare for all, but I know Elliot was. Like, when they asked him, he said, I support Medicare for all.
No.
He said, and he even said, if it's too unfeasible to pass it now, I would support lowering down the age of Medicare so more people can benefit. But I just found Robin to be, to just be a little bit like, kind of like this like resistance candidates. And I always thought, I was like, harking your fortunes on like your involvement in like the January 6th stuff. I don't know if that's going to cut it here in South Florida.
Yeah, and that's too bad, because I think he had a good opportunity, but like, I don't know. The name recognition obviously is there for Elliot Rodriguez, so it was always going to be for any candidate who didn't have that name recognition of being on TV every day for like the last however many years, like 40 years that Elliot Rodriguez has been. Same thing with Maria Elvira Salazar, but the difference is that Elliot Rodriguez just seems like he's not, I don't know, bringing anything to the table, like in terms of a fight. So that's unfortunate, and we're probably doomed to a couple more years of Maria. Oh, Maria. Florida districts 26 and 28 are only notable because there was no there was like the Democratic Party, as far as I could tell, did not put any real like resources behind either of those districts. Both of the candidates they kind of coasted through uncontested, and seems like they're likely headed to be marched to the slaughterhouse in the general election in November. We met Tomas, you and I. We met Nicole Laughlin. She seems like a lovely young lady. I don't know though. Mario Diaz-Balart is at this point an institution down here. Phil Ayer, I don't know him. I wouldn't be able to spot him in a crowd. I wouldn't.
I would say Nicole Laughlin. She's going every Wednesday to the Miramar detention facility with the volunteers. Like, tough race, but at least she's like. It seems like she's
putting in the work.
She's trying, whereas like Phil Ayer, it's just going out every day and just tweeting about DSA and like socialism and invading Cuba, and it's just like good luck, dude. That's going to get you over the finish line.
Yeah, you're going to win the congressional district 26 of or 28, 29 or what? Yeah, congressional district 28 fucking Twitter election with that. Congratulations. From around Florida, widening our scope a little bit, we have the CFO race is predictable. It's going to be Blazing Goglia versus Annette Taddeo. And Tomas, just stop me if you want to like weigh in on any of these, if you have any specific thoughts. Wilton Simpson is probably going to end up being the agricultural commissioner.
Well, for sure. He has such a massive war chest. I mean, it is Titanic.
Yeah. And I did want to like share this with you guys. An interesting TikTok that I saw.
And I'm here at the Pasco Hernando State College, which is a voting precinct here in Dade City. And I spoke with some voters who say they have issues with the name that you see on that building, Wilton Simpson, because his name is also on the ballot. This sign says no campaigning beyond this point, but voters question the name on the building. Wilton Simpson is the current agriculture commissioner of Florida, and Matt Taylor, aka Matt the Welder, was running against him. We spoke with Matt at his watch party tonight about the issue, and he says he received several complaints from voters.
I think it's unfair to all candidates, because if I tried to have my sign within 100 feet of a polling place, they would say, no, you can't do that.
She's making a really good point that like people are walking into a building that says Wilton Simpson really big on it to vote in a ballot that has Wilton Simpson on it. And it makes me think like about when you take like a hunk of chicken and you throw it into the deep fryer. And does the hunk of chicken feel and know all of the like tendrils of oil that are quickly burning it and frying it and flashing it? Or like, does it like, is it aware of, and I say that thinking about Florida, do we know like how fried we are, how deeply, like that woman probably had to drive down a fucking Charlie Kirk road or something to get to that street. Like we are, it's so inextricable. And you can sit here and point these little things out, like I'm pointing out, and it's like it's to the point of meaninglessness because it feels like we're so deeply fried. All of this shit, politics has become culture. They got their wish. And I know that politicians have had their names on the side of academic buildings forever, but really politicians as cheap as Wilton Simpson have had their names. And like,
I get what you're saying. Like if C. Montgomery Burns was challenging Mayor Quimby and voting was taking place in the C. Montgomery Burns Convention Center. Like, yes, I understand.
That's exactly what I was trying to say. Yeah,
yeah, I understand what you're saying. I think to your point, I guess about like the meta narrative of it. I guess when I was growing up, Florida was associated with Disney, which was like this like fictional, like it was a fictitious place. It was a place you could go to experience like this ersatz like dream world. But we don't have culture anymore. We just have politics. And so now the concept of Disney is being recreated throughout the state of, like you said, I'm going down Charlie Kirk Road to vote in the Wilton Simpson Convention Center.
Events building, yeah.
You know, the
airport facility lounge.
Even
the airport will be named after. Yeah. The airport will be named after Trump if it hasn't already been. Like it's
West Palm Beach
has been. So there you go. So basically, Florida is Disney World for MAGA, basically. Like it's just taking the concept of Disney World and making it statewide and Republican.
Do you guys remember? I think that part of like, I don't like this. I don't like any of this. Mm-hmm. But like the thing that I remember is, do you guys remember like 8 years ago? It might have been longer. And I don't even know if they're still doing this. You know how there's obviously like Comic-Con and there's like there's like Dragon Con and there's all these like for fandoms like Marvel has a day where you can go out there and there's some of them are in San Diego or they're in LA or they're in New York or whatever and there's a million different comic book conventions everywhere. And like 8 years ago they launched out Politicon. Do you remember that?
Vaguely.
It was for fans of politics.
With that? Yeah, what happened with Politicon? Did it finally go on?
I don't know, but I just remember thinking like this is not good.
Is that the one where Cenk was screaming at someone in the audience?
It was like the one where you would see like Cenk Uygur like screaming at like Tucker Carlson and like you could watch Hassan Pike.
I remember this.
Like debate, I don't know, Tommy Lauren, like just
it was exactly what it was.
Dumb debates around like
the dumbest debates,
influencer politics types.
And then every once in a while they'll pan the camera out to the crowd, and you just see people with like lanyards and just little drools coming out of their mouth, and they're just like, yeah, do it. Tell them about Medicare for all, and it's just like tell them about being woke. And I was like, this probably doesn't augur well for like the culture that now people are like taking their busman's holidays to Politicon. Like that should be a kind of thing that you have to go to as a course of your job and like you're forced to go, not something that you voluntarily fork over $1,000 and a round trip ticket to fucking Burbank for. Like it's insane. And now here we are. So that's
absolutely depressing. Honestly, if you're listening to this and you got a ticket to Politicon, like God bless you for listening to Walt, but like, come on, man, like
get your shit together.
You got to get a hobby.
Come on. Go talk to girls or like go.
Yeah, learn an instrument
or guys, whatever.
I don't know.
Yeah.
A couple no contest notes, like things that were just like whatever. Either there was no real challenger or like whatever. It's just kind of wait and see until November. Jose Javier Rodriguez is going to go up against James Uthmeier for the Florida Attorney General, set for November, which I wanted to bring up because I feel like those two specific candidates are such a great encapsulation of Florida's two predominant political sort of streams of belief right now. I think like if you were to boil down the Florida Democrat right now, the voter, not the party, but the voter, it would look a lot like JJR. And if you were to boil down the mean or average conservative voter, Republican, it would look a lot like James Uthmeier. And I don't know. What do you think, T?
I mean, as you know, I worked for JJR as an aide when he was in the legislature. He's a great guy. He's a good person, super honest, lots of integrity. He's a labor lawyer, environmentalist, working class guy. I mean, we really could not have a better person serving as attorney general, and he knows the job, right? I mean, he's like a policy wonk. Obviously, he's going to be outspent, but the other thing is that James Uthmeier is an unlikable fascist who was appointed and never elected. So who knows? But yeah, I think JJR is a really, really good person. Like, we would be really well served in there.
For listeners who don't know, Tomas is pouring Pop Rocks into Coca-Cola bottles right now. That's what's going on.
Can you guys hear this?
It's okay. It's all right.
I'm cooking. I have to go somewhere. But yeah, like this is a position that like has a lot of power in terms of consumer protection, being able to litigate on behalf of the Floridians, wage theft, going after crooked companies, etc. Like this is actually like one of the most powerful positions on the state.
I would love to see a scorched earth revenge campaign from JJR on like Next Era Energy. That would be so much fun to spend 4 years watching him do that. Like, how come we don't see that more?
old Walt heads will know that JJR was when after the utility companies here so hard that FPL and NextEra actually hired private investigators to follow him around and his family and take pictures and monitor him trying to dig up dirt, which, by the way, he's such like a family man and like boring guy that like they got nothing because all he does is just like work and go back to his family. But they had literally like PIs and like following him around taking pictures of him. That's private investigators.
Their hatred for him was like the seeds of one of our biggest political scandals down here with the fake ballot tiers and shit like that like eventually led to that. In Florida 3, I wanted to bring this one up because Kat Cammack, who's gained a lot of profile of late in the last year or two, she was uncontested, so she was going to face a Democrat named Seth Harp, who is not the Seth Harp. He's a media guy, but he is not the Seth Harp that wrote the very good book last year. Gerald, who
I know the name. I don't have it on my tongue.
Yeah, I'm gonna look it up right now. But it's not that Seth Harp. It's a different Seth Harp.
I'll pull it up. He's
like a Central Florida. The guy who did win is like a Central Florida, like radio media guy. Like he's from what I understand. So I saw that he was
Fort Bragg Cartel.
The Fort Bragg Cartel, which was a really good. I heard like some excerpts from that. It's really good. I've always wondered what was going on in that fucking whole Fort Bragg. Whatever. Doesn't matter because it's not the same Seth Harp, different Seth Harp. So this Seth Harp will obviously probably lose. Cammack has had her seat on lock since the first time after she won it. And I wanted to go back to that because years ago on a different podcast than this one, I interviewed a guy named Adam Christensen who was going up against her as he was like a progressive guy. Again, another one of these progressives with like zero support from the state party or the national party. He kept it as close as anybody has kept it with her in that district.
I remember him.
Yeah, he was good. He was trying to fight specifically. There was I might butcher this, but I think it was like a fight over her district has a lot of like natural springs that Nestle had their eyes on, and she was pretty much ready to hand them over. And he was kind of fighting for that to keep Nestle's hands off of these natural springs and some natural rivers. So and then like, if you guys remember, she's the person that got elected. Part of her platform, her coming out platform, her Vote for Me platform was like Barack Obama stole my family's farm and and like wants people like me to fail and to die and shit like that. That turned out to like not be true. Not like her family lost their farm for a million other reasons.
Her farm?
Yeah, that's what she said. That Obama stole. Tomas, I can see it when Tomas is about to say based. I can tell when he's like based. But yeah, there's just been no short. The keen-eyed listeners will also remember she was the one that voted to remove a woman's right to choose here in Florida, while also admitting that she had her own ectopic pregnancy procedure done, which like women should be able to do. Like that's kind of the point. It's not like the problem that was that she had an abortion. It's the fact that she doesn't want anyone else to be able to have them. And I feel like that's like, yeah. And I just feel like her being uncontested and just now one of these people who's going to be like a Ileana Ros-Lehtinen type, who's just kind of just like elected for like 40 years. It's just going to be, she's just there now. Now she's furniture that's too big to fit through the apartment window. And she's just going to be, and that's not like a weight joke or anything. I don't want it to sound that way. But she's like, just going to be there forever. And there's nothing anyone can do. And the Democrats have no interest in doing anything about it. And it feels like there's wide chunks of this state that they have that 8 years ago were winnable or were at least contestable with a zero resource candidate like Adam Christensen, and are now just completely written off and are just like, good fucking luck, assholes.
Yeah, I mean, yeah. To be fair, we haven't flipped a congressional seat since 2018. You know, maybe it's like gotta learn to crawl before you can walk, let alone run. Florida Democrats.
And then this last one I wanted to mention was I know it was a real heartbreaker for Gerald. Unfortunately, his personal favorite, Dan Bilzerian, went down to Randy Fine.
My fitness icon.
Fitness icon.
My fitness and dental icon.
And what do they call that? Oh, there's a word the kids can use now for this. The chin.
Jawline.
No. But the not the jawline. It's mewing. Do you know what mewing is?
Oh, of course. You got to suck in the. I'm not going to do it here, but yes, I know what mewing is. I'm not going to do it here.
I bring it up because have you ever seen a picture of Dan Bilzerian without his beard?
No.
He has no chin. He has like a concave face. It goes
okay.
Really?
That's the reason for the beard. I did want to bring up somebody else who's newly sporting a beard. Is the guy who beat him, Randy Fine, and we know that he's sporting a new beard, not just from his social media or media appearances, but because he randomly showed up on somebody's somebody's fucking ring cam, like sifting through their letters on their
mailbox.
Federal crime.
What was that?
Which is a federal crime.
Yeah.
But yeah, when you get that close to specific foreign governments and who have no problem breaking the law and getting away with it, I guess you feel
what a fucking weirdo little creep.
Yeah,
disgusting. Like literally, I remember thinking about like in a past life, what feels like 1,000 years ago, looking at Iowa and being like, look at those backwards pieces of shit that keep electing this guy Steve King. What's wrong with you people? You people
it sucks. And now I was literally to the left of us.
Yeah.
And then the only other election result I wanted to bring to your attention was Butler County, Pennsylvania, outside of Florida. So if you don't know what's going on there, Pennsylvania Democrats, this is from the Daily Beast, Pennsylvania Democrats have claimed a shock victory on hallowed MAGA turf with a near 30-year GOP stranglehold seemingly broken. Democratic Pennsylvania Governor Josh Shapiro announced on X on Wednesday morning that Brandon Dukes just flipped a state house district in Butler County, as the New York Times. Whatever. It's been like 30 years since a Democrat has won this state seat. And if Butler County, this specific part of Butler County sounds familiar to you, and if you didn't catch on the context clues of our our in poor taste jokes that we were just making, Butler County, of course, is where in 2024
if you listen to this podcast, you know exactly what
you know what the fuck we're laughing about, asshole.
Enough is enough. You know
don't
what
make us explain it to you. So yeah, I don't know. People are pointing to this as what did you say, Tomas? What did he say?
Well, I'm sorry. What was that? Jokes? I don't know. What?
Yeah, I didn't hear.
There's no jokes. I was dead serious. Yeah. So anyway,
as I understand it, it was like a double-digit Trump district, and now it's trending at least toward. I think the Democrat has the lead, but like ever so slightly.
I saw something, and you might be more up to date on it, but I saw something like 3 hours ago that was like they'd seen enough and they called it for the Democrat.
They called it. Oh, okay.
Yeah, but
yeah, I saw that they called it.
Yeah, I saw that they called it very just recently, like in the last few hours.
Okay. Then you can delete what I said, and then I won't get fired. because it's technically not timely. So there you go.
Okay, but did you guys know that the woman? Okay, so the guy who this Democrat was running against, the Democrat was running against the Democrat Brandon Dukes. He was running against a guy named Timko. Like I'm trying to see what his first name is. I don't know. What's Timko? That guy was stepping in as a candidate for that seat to replace the incumbent, Stephanie Shalaba. Okay, Stephanie Shalaba was the woman sitting behind Trump during the assassination attempt. So that woman that was like right behind him, who must have gotten that other guy who we never talk about anymore, the guy that did get killed. Like, a guy got killed that day. And I feel like nobody ever mentions that a guy's head got blown off that day. And, when it comes to that whole shit, I don't know. Like, it feels like something we all just kind of memory hold. And at the same time, also it like turned into like an iconic photo. But at the same time, we've like memory hold all the details of it.
It's pretty iconic, unfortunately.
Yeah. Anyway, I don't know. I just thought that was interesting. She was sitting behind him, and now she's retiring because she wants to spend more time with her family, I suppose. I don't know what the detail. I don't know if that's one of those bullshit, I want to spend time with my family, or if it's like a real, I want to spend more time with my family. But yeah, I don't know. Any thoughts on that? Any thoughts on the race in southeast Butler County, Gerald?
No.
Just that literally, like, Iowa's more like liberal, I guess. I won't say progressive, but liberal than Florida now.
Yeah. I mean, I will say, like, I don't know. I feel like a lot of these special elections and stuff, they get like cherry picked as like data points or whatever. Mm-hmm. And that might be the case with this, but like, I mean, that is the country that is the purple country, right? That, I mean, not that one. That was obviously deep red, but I mean, zoomed out a little bit, like the 5 states that every election, every presidential election just comes down to 5 states now. And that's like that's kind of a barometer, right? Can you use that as a barometer for anything useful at this point?
No,
not for midterms. No.
I agree. I don't know. I just thought it was interesting.
Not only not for midterms, not for primaries leading up to midterms. I mean, that's a subset within a subset of voter.
Yeah. Well, there you go. We're congratulations to Angie Nixon.
Yes. Well deserved.
Very. Oh, shout out to local reporter Luis Aguirre, who is recovering from an accident, and hopefully he's okay. He's a friend, so hopefully he's doing all right.
We'll volunteer for Angie Nixon.
Yes.
Yeah, go to angienixon.com.